Hello everyone, today I am going to tell you how you can answer the question related to a preface to Lyrical Ballads by Wordsworth. I am going to tell you how exactly, in a systematic way, how you can write your answer. First of all, you should start your answer with the introduction. So, in introduction, you can write like William Wordsworth and his literary friend S.T. Coleridge wrote a collection of poems by the name The Lyrical Ballads, which was first published in 1798, which marked the beginning of the Romantic age of English literature. There were total 23 poems in this collection, out of which 4 were written by Coleridge and 19 poems were written by Wordsworth. A preface is an introduction or a critical statement. This preface was given by Wordsworth, who wanted to free poetry from an artificial style of writing and bring it nearer to the real lives of the common people. The preface can be divided into 4 parts. Part 1 about what is poetry according to Wordsworth, which also includes 4 stages of creation of poetry. Part 2 is about characteristics of a good poet. Part 3 about value of poetry or aim of poetry. Part 4 is about poetic diction and language. Then in your answer, you should write about criticism of Wordsworth's views about poetic diction and language by Coleridge. And at the last, you should write about the conclusion. You should give some concluding statements to your answer. So, part 1 about what is poetry. According to William Wordsworth, poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. He highlighted the importance of spontaneous expression of emotions. Emotions should flow out naturally when poet's heart gets overwhelmed with emotions, just like water flows out naturally when the bucket collecting it is full. Feelings are the raw material needed to create a poem. The emotions must become ripe in tranquility before a creation of a poem. The poet should not be in a hurry to write a poem. Then you should write about 4 stages of creation of a poem. It is included in your part 1 only. Stage 1 is observation of what the poet see, hear or sense. Stage 2 is about recollection. Then the poet should recollect what he has seen or heard or sensed while sitting at a peaceful place in isolation or tranquility. Stage 3 of creation of poem is filtration. After observing and recollecting, the poet should filter away unnecessary distractions and focus on the actual emotion which has touched his heart deeply. Stage 4 is about the creation of the poetry. Then the poet should create the poem in a language which is easy to understand. Then we come to part 2. The part 2 of your answer should include characteristics of a good poet. A good poet has the following 3 characteristics according to William Wordsworth. First, a good poet is extremely sensitive. He can empathize with feelings of others. Second is a good poet is a man speaking to men. He is a human being with great social responsibility. Every great poet is a teacher. The third characteristic of a good poet is every good poet has an extraordinarily strong imagination. So these were the 3 characteristics of a good poet according to the preface of Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth. Then we come to part 3, in which William Wordsworth talks about value of poetry or the aim of poetry. Here you can write these 3 important points. First one is the universal function of poetry is to make the readers sensitive and humane. Poetry not only provide pleasure but also teaches moral and philosophical values to the readers. Social and national events like growth of industrialization and urbanization in England provided a very dull uniformity. People started to crave for extraordinary incidents and things to make their life interesting. Poetry could be such an interesting thing which provides pleasure as well as moral lessons. According to Wordsworth, a poet hopes to restore to his readers a proper sensitivity to regenerate mankind returning to nature. This is a very important line. See, I have given you a briefing as well as a proper structure in which you can write your answer to make it impressive and score good marks. If you, before I continue with the answer, if you like my work, because I am putting in a lot of effort by reading from many sources and then making these notes for you people. If you like my effort, then please subscribe to my channel. I move ahead to part 4 of your answer. Part 4 should be about poetic diction and language. See, the poet Wordsworth, in his preface to Lyrical Ballads, talked about these four important things as I told you. So we have reached the part 4th. In fourth part, we talk about what he said about the poetic diction and language. Basic crux, I tell you, is the language should be easy to understand by the local masses. It should not be only reserved to the, you know, highly qualified people. They should be in such a language that even the common masses, common people, can generate their interest in poetry. So, this was the beginning of the Romantic era of English literature, when the poets and the writers were shifting from targeting their audience towards the common masses, not just the highly qualified people. Okay, coming to part 4. Wordsworth criticized neoclassical writers such as Dryden and Pope for using artificial poetic language. He was not against the use of figure of speech, but according to him, the figure of speech should be organic to the poem. They should not be forcefully added by the poet like artificial ornaments. Wordsworth said that he will use the language of the common man in his poetry, especially that of rustics, as their language is most natural. He also added that there cannot be any essential difference between the language of the prose and that of the poetry. So, this is the crux of what Wordsworth said in his preface to the literary ballads. In his preface to the lyrical ballad. Then, his friend and his co writer of the lyrical ballads criticized some of his views in his own critical work, Biographia Literaria. So he said that Wordsworth was not right when he said that there is no difference between the language of prose and that of poetry. According to him, there is a difference of meter in prose and poetry. In prose, the order of words in a sentence should be certain, but in poetry, the poet can use poetic freedom and change the order of the words as per his requirement. For example, in prose, we write like she went to the church, but in poetry, we can write like to the church she went. So the order of the sentence is of great importance. There should be a proper order in the prose, but when you write poetry, you have this poetic freedom that you can change the order as per your requirement. So Coleridge criticized Wordsworth's view over this matter. Then Coleridge also highlighted about the theory of poetic diction. Coleridge criticized Wordsworth for his theory of poetic diction, as he said that he himself did not practice this theory even in his own works. According to Coleridge, Wordsworth writes in a well-framed, sustained language, which is very different from the language of common masses and not at all rustic. So, कॉलरिज जो हैं वो वर्ड्सवर्थ को इस बात पे भी क्रिटिसाइज़ करते हैं कि आप खुद एक थ्योरी दे रहे हो कि आपको बहुत ही ज़्यादा रस्टिक लैंग्वेज यूज़ करनी चाहिए, पोइट्स को बहुत ज़्यादा ऐसी लैंग्वेज यूज़ करनी चाहिए जो नॉर्मल मासेस यूज़ करते हैं, ताकि हर कोई उस पोइट्री से कनेक्ट कर पाए। लेकिन वो खुद अपनी प्रैक्टिस में ये चीज़ फॉलो नहीं कर रहे थे। अगर उनकी ज़्यादातर पोइट्री आप देखोगे तो अकॉर्डिंग टू कॉलरिज वो एक बड़े ही स्ट्रक्चर्ड मैनर में लिखी गई है, और उनकी जो लैंग्वेज है वो बिल्कुल भी कॉमन मासेस की लैंग्वेज या फिर रस्टिक तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं है। फाइनली कॉलरिज सेड दैट एवरी मैन्स लैंग्वेज इज पर्सनल एंड सब्जेक्टिव बेस्ड अपॉन देयर नॉलेज, इमोशंस एंड द वर्क दे डू. No two men speak the exact same language in exact same manner. Therefore, Wordsworth's emphasis on using real language of common man makes little sense. Then we can write some concluding statements. Wordsworth himself concluded his preface to the lyrical ballad. He said that he claimed that his poems have two of the following distinguishing characteristics. First is his poems always have a worthy purpose. The second characteristic he states is the feeling is given more importance in his poems as compared to the action. As he said, feeling developed gives importance to the action and situations and not the action and situation to the feelings. Thank you. All the best for your exams.